Okay, Mr. Melman is something of a legend in Israel. He's a journalist, author, you're a TV personality, you did books, you did movies, you're a vivid runner. You wrote a book about running through the world around different cities. But you're a man who knows much more than others when it comes to clandestine world of Mossad. It's not Mossad, it's Mossad, huh? Okay. It's a foreign intelligence service of the state of Israel. So we're not talking about really important questions like how does Duško Lokin looks without his wig. It's a Croatian singer, doesn't matter. You know. But thank you, Yossi, for coming to Croatia. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Igor. You made me blushing.
Okay.
With all these compliments. It's my second visit to Croatia. I'm very happy to be here. I was once in Dubrovnik nearly 20 years ago, but things have changed. So it's for the better. So I'm very glad to be. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for these kind words. Did you run this morning?
No, because I had to leave very early.
Yossi runs every morning 10K, yeah?
But I'll run this afternoon.
Okay. Let's start with the serious questions, you know.
And I'm 72 years old.
Okay.
Wow. And I still run.
Yeah. I'm 56 and I don't run, so. Okay. In a nutshell, what is so extraordinary about Mossad? Why that agency is considered as cook in the spy world where everybody else seems like to be Pepsi, you know? And I'm talking about agencies like MI6, FBI, Russian FSB, and other agencies. In a nutshell.
Well, first of all, Mossad is an acronym. Actually, it's an acronym of a Hebrew word which means institute. The Institute for Intelligence or Espionage and Special Operations. So, but it came into as a catchword as Mossad. So everyone knows it as a Mossad. I believe that it's very famous around the world next to the Bible. Well, or maybe Coca-Cola. And what makes it special, it's the circumstances. Israel, a small country has lived in a very hostile, dangerous environment, neighborhood. So you needed, in order to be on top of your enemies, you needed to be determined. So it's determination. It's willpower, it's skillful people, and readiness to take risks. And the Mossad and the entire Israeli intelligence community, and Israel has three intelligence organizations. It's the military intelligence.
What's the name of the military intelligence?
It's called military intelligence, Aman.
Okay.
Which means intelligence directorate of the IDF, of the Israeli Defense Forces. You have Shin Bet or Shabak, which is the domestic security services. Mm-hmm. And then you have Mossad, which is the foreign agency. All of them are very determined and very, very skillful and strong. And one more important element is that they work for the government. They work for the government.
Okay. Israel, as you said, is under constant threat from the other countries in the region of Middle East. We are talking about serious threats. Maintaining national security requires capable tools to extract, assess, and prevent such risks, you know. Could this mechanism turn into a danger to a democracy in Israel? In other words, who is controlling the controller?
Well, as I just mentioned, Israel is a free democratic society as long as it comes to the borders of before the 67 war. So within these borders, I'm not talking about the West Bank and Gaza, which are Palestinians and controlled by Israel. So when it comes to the borders of the 67 war, Israel is a free democratic society. And the intelligence community, the Mossad and the other intelligence communities are subjected to the government control. They're controlled by the government, the prime minister office, defense ministry, and we don't have RUG elements within the agencies as you may find in other countries.
Okay, but who is actually deciding what is acceptable and what is not acceptable in terms of, you know, operational targets, methods, and so on?
Every operation by the Mossad, even the most controversial ones like assassinations,
Yes?
have to be approved before by the prime minister, by a special committee of the cabinet, and also by the parliament.
By the parliament. You have a council.
There is a subcommittee within the Foreign Affairs and Security Committee of the Parliament, of the Knesset, and all these layers have to be approved before every operation. Almost every important move, risky move, cannot be handled and run independently before the prime minister approves it.
Okay. But how does it really work? I mean, you have people that decides on life of other people.
Well, the Mossad, for example, and the head of the Mossad, his term is usually between 4 to 7 years. I think we have now the 14th director, David Barnea. Most of the directors rose within the ranks of the organization. Occasionally, some outside generals are with military background becoming heads of the Mossad, but they are professionals. They are no politicians. They are not the heads of the security services, and the Mossad are not politicians. Now, they have to be approved by the government, by the prime minister and the cabinet. And it works the following way. The head of the Mossad or his deputies or heads of departments can come up with a plan, with an idea, with an operation. First of all, it has to be approved by the top echelon of the agency, the director, deputy director, and then it is brought before the cabinet or before the prime minister. Obviously, not every move in the field has to go to the prime minister, but the most important ones. That's how you secure that there are no RUG elements in the agency, there are no RUG operations, and everything is subjected to the government supervision.
Okay, but Israel is also well known for the fact that intelligence agencies embody a very important role in its diplomacy.
Yes.
Okay. This is deeply linked to the historical and cultural background of the Jewish state. What does it really mean?
Well, it means that because there is a special department in the Mossad, which is called Tevel or Cosmos, the world, and it is responsible for the secret diplomatic ties with many countries with whom Israel doesn't have relations, especially Muslim countries, especially Arab nations, and so we have the foreign ministry on one hand, you know, diplomats and envoys and embassies.
Things that are on the table.
Yeah, they are in the open, on the surface. And then you have that department which is dealing secretly with forming ties, diplomatic ties. For example, I can give you, eventually some of them would come into the open. But in order to come to the open, you need to cultivate relations with them. So, for example, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a Muslim country. For many years, didn't like Israel. The Jews, and so on. Theocracy. But because of their interest, above all, hostility, rivalry, fear of Iran, which is Shiite, and Saudi Arabia are Sunnites, Muslims, but of different factions, different sects. So because of that, Saudi Arabia wanted to have some sort of under-the-table relations with Israel, to buy equipment for Israel, intelligence equipment, weapons, and so on. But they didn't want to come to the open, so they were approaching the Mossad. They were meeting secretly their chiefs of intelligence with the Israeli chiefs of intelligence, sometimes mainly in Europe, but in recently even in Saudi Arabia. So this is an example how the Mossad is working as a second foreign ministry. And yes, there are sometimes frictions between the foreign ministry and Mossad.
Mm-hmm. But is it important also to, to find people that will work? For instance, if Mossad wants to find someone in this room that will work for him, how does it work?
Well, it would be a long process.
Okay.
Not an instant recipe.
Yeah, okay.
By the way, in the Mossad jargon parlance, every move is called an operation. Let's say that you want to approach someone in this
the lady
audience.
in the first row. Okay, the lady in the first row. Okay.
And the gentleman in the second row. So
okay.
They would plan it before. Some agents, operatives of Mossad would come here. Mm-hmm. Before they would come here, they would try to get as much information about those who are their targets for recruitment, for example. So they'll have the background about them, family ties, all that, if it's possible. Then they will come a day or 2 or 3 days before the conference. They'll look around. They'll then try to find out where they are stationed, which hotel, which room, and what is the agenda, what is the timetable, and they will try to approach the lady or the gentleman during the conference, the coffee break, but they would not say, I am Mossad. They would pretend maybe they are businessmen, maybe they are working for another intelligence service. Okay. So that's how it works.
So this was the very vivid example, but did we see the same plot in the well-known Spielberg movie, Munich? You saw the movie, you're not very satisfied with the movie.
Well, actually...
Or with Spielberg or with the movie?
No, Spielberg, I don't know him, but the movie was actually not very accurate. It was half fiction, and it was based on... we just marked the 50th anniversary of the Munich massacre of 11 Israeli athletes at the Munich Olympics in 1972 by Palestinian terrorists. So the movie, which came out, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, was not very accurate. It was based on someone who actually pretended to be a Mossad agent, but was not a Mossad agent at all. He was a taxi driver in New York, but he got he had good imagination. He read books and newspaper clippings, and he based his book around what happened in Munich. Now, the Munich operation is, what happened after Munich, after the Israeli athletes were killed. Israel decided, the Mossad decided, the head of the Mossad at the time, General Zamir, and the Prime Minister Golda Meir, yes, they reached the conclusion that Israel cannot rely anymore on favors or the goodwill of local police forces, be it German or French or Italian or whatever, and because they don't protect Israeli embassies, Israeli interests, Israeli diplomats, and Israelis at large. So they decided from now on, we will defend ourselves. We will send our people to Europe to defend Israeli interests. And along the road, because the PLO, which was responsible, Palestinian Liberation Organization, which was responsible for what happened in Munich, they had infrastructures in Europe. They have cells of operatives, of helpers, of people who provided safe houses, of people who provided cars. So the Mossad decided to go after them. There is a myth. I don't want to break the legend that after the Munich killing, Israel went on a rampage, Mossad went on a rampage, amok, to take revenge. No, the aim was not revenge. There is no, the Mossad has never operating on God's feelings, on emotions.
Only on brains.
Yeah, or so they decided we would take care and we would get rid of those PLO operatives in Europe to prevent future attacks, not to take revenge about those the perpetrators. And the matter of fact is that out of the 8 terrorists who were in Munich in 72, 8 were killed in a very failed operation by the German police. 3 survived, were in prison, and after a month, they were released by the Germans because the PLO threatened Germany that they would continue operating on German soil. Now, out of these 3, 2 of them are still survived. Still, and they give interviews, one in Lebanon, one in Jordan. It means that the aim of the operation after Munich was not revenge, because otherwise they would have been killed.
But it takes us to the question that was very important after the 9/11 and the attacks on the WTC in New York. The Americans were very unhappy, of course, with the events, but the analysts said that that happened because they were relying too much on electronic intelligence, not human intelligence. So what is actually, what is more important or useful? Man on the ground or spyware that manipulates with mobile phones?
There is no replacement for human intelligence. To have an agent on the field. Of course, technology is helping. Nowadays, cyber warfare and digital information and all that. But still, in order to understand the intentions of a leader, you need someone very close to his head, to his mind, a good advisor. Because with all this development of technological gadget, the other side is also aware of it. So in maybe 25 years ago, 30 years ago, it was easy or easier to intercept telephone calls.
Yes.
But nowadays, the terrorists and also enemies and leaders, they know that their telephones are bugged, so they are very cautious, and therefore there is a lot of information which you cannot get neither from computers nor from telephones, hacking telephones, breaking into telephones, and you need someone very close to the leader to know the intentions of the other side. Capabilities you can learn from technology, from reconnaissance, from other technological means. But intentions, what Putin is up to?
Yes, what Putin is up to.
Well,
what Mossad knows about Putin.
He knows that his telephone is bugged, and not only that, maybe he's trying to mislead those who are listening to him with false information. Feeding him feeding disinformation, and therefore you need someone very close to Putin or to enemy leaders, and because many dictators are paranoid and very suspicious, they don't even trust their own people.
Yeah.
So that's sometimes it's a big problem.
So,
but human intelligence is very. I'll give you another little story how gadgets on one end are very important, but also unreliable.
Yes.
In terms of obtaining information. 20-something years ago, an Arab leader, I don't want to name him.
Why?
I can't.
Okay.
He died. But I can't name him. He died. He built a palace.
Okay.
He contracted foreign companies
to build,
European companies to build the palace.
So a lot of gold, shining marble, and that kind of stuff.
All sorts of things.
Okay.
And the Mossad wanted to know, to be very close to that leader. So they approached one company which was involved in the construction of that palace.
Yeah.
They convinced the contractor, with a little help of money,
Of course.
to plant bugging equipment in the tiles that they were supposed to decorate the bathroom.
The bathroom.
Bathroom.
Okay. It would be better than living room.
And it worked perfect. The only problem was that he never used the palace.
Okay. I thought that he never used the bathroom.
He never used the palace. He never settled in the palace. So you invested so much money in order to plant these instruments inside the walls, inside the tiles, and eventually it was useless. And it happens all the time in intelligence. And therefore, you need this technological gadget. It's important, but sometimes they are useless.
Okay. So no future for artificial intelligence in this line of work. No future for artificial intelligence in this line of work.
No, it's important. Artificial intelligence is important, and more intelligence organizations around the globe, including Israel, including the Mossad, are using it for data analysis, data processing, in order to, but still, maybe 70 years ago, after, as a result of Pearl Harbor, the attack by Japan on the United States, two scholars, Roberta and Robert Wallstatter, defined a term which is called how you distinguish between noises and sounds. In other words, we are overloaded with information. And the problem is how you know what is important information and what is not important, rubbish. I remember I was a correspondent in London in the 80s. Yes. Already in the 80s, the British intelligence, MI5, the domestic intelligence agency, could easily listen to all the telephones in London, okay? But you wanted to listen only to those who are those telephone calls or phone calls which were important. So they invented the system of keywords. If someone is using a word on telephone, I don't know, let's say the name of the president or the prime minister,
or bomb, a combination,
or bombs, or terrorism, or something like that, then now it's much more important. Now it's easier with artificial intelligence. So, but still, there is you cannot rely only on artificial intelligence, on technology, on cyber. You need, and who runs the machines? People are running the machines. So after all, you still need the people.
Okay. Recently, not so recently, but a couple of years ago, Mossad set up a fund giving grants because it was seeking technologies in various fields, including robotics, encryption, finding new ways of carrying out intelligence operation. So we can say that innovation is almost part of the culture in your country. And it's very important that, government agencies like Mossad are using all the capabilities that they have and the capabilities of the Israeli people. That's very good for the development of the country.
Yes, Igor, this is very correct. Because of the necessities, I said, and being in a very hostile environment, the military, whether it's the army or the intelligence community, they needed the most skillful people. They needed the best of the best, cream of de la cream. Therefore, the army, Israeli military intelligence, the Mossad, are at the front of the state-of-art technologies. Now, the problem is they invent all sorts of toys and gadgets and software, but then after 2, 3, 5, 7 years, they leave the military service and they go
To the civilian.
to the civilian sector. And that's why Israel is one of the leaders in high-tech. I would say among the, and many, many countries in the world are asking Israel to help them. Just recently there were these scandals about NSO. It's a company which is capable, Israeli company, which is capable of hacking telephones. First it was with one click, and eventually it was even without a click. Simply and it's a very controversial company. The company was invented by people from the military.
Of course.
And then they started selling this and using these telephones, hacking these telephones, they listen to conversations, and in some cases, especially in dubious regimes, these tools, these telephones, this NSO software called Pegasus,
yes,
was used to spy on journalists. That was a case in Mexico. Eventually, a journalist was killed by I think drug lords working with some government officials. Hungary bought Urban, which is not the most democratic nation on earth, to say the least.
It's our neighbor, so okay.
They bought it from Israel, NSO, and there were stories in the Hungarian media, as there are stories now in the Greek media, that the tools are used to spy on politicians, opponents,
yes,
dissidents, yes, journalists. So,
we have the same things happening here.
It's a double-edged sword. It's useful. It's good for the high-tech sector of Israel. It helps the Israeli industry, Israeli military, but also it can be
dangerous,
used in negative ways.
Do we know the agency annual budget? Do you discuss that?
It's a secret.
Why?
But since we don't know even how many people serve in the Mossad, but we estimate. As journalists, we can estimate it.
What is the estimate?
So there are now 7,000 employees directly employed by the Mossad.
Like permanent employees,
permanent
not half-time employees.
Staff, yeah. Well, after 2-3 years, they get a contract.
Okay.
I mean, until 2-3 years, they are on a not permanent contract,
okay,
but also they are subcontractors.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of subcontractors, civilian companies working for the intelligence community. The same is with the CIA, the same is with the British MI6. So I believe that the budget is around, if 50% of the budget goes to salaries, wages. Okay. This is more or less the ratio. And then, so I would say that the Mossad budget is around more than $1.5 billion
annual budget.
Annual budget.
It's a nice budget.
Yeah.
Good work on that.
Yeah, it's a big budget.
Yeah.
It's a big budget, relatively to a country with 9 million people.
Yes.
Yes. The CIA budget is much bigger, MI6 budget, but America has 235, 50 or whatever million people. Israel has only 9. So it's a huge budget, and the Mossad is very almost, I would say, worshipped in Israeli society.
Yeah, that's interesting. There are no scandals or affairs that are connected with the Mossad, or with the heads of a Mossad. Just recently I read an article that the last one was involved in some kind of, love affair or something like that.
Yes, Yossi Cohen, yes.
Okay.
Yes, well, but he was also,
he was not very,
he was married, and he was having a sexual relations, love affair with a stewardess. They met when he flew one of these trips abroad, and the head of the Mossad.
High Club, yes.
But he was not very clever, because he started exchanging his love words with her on WhatsApp. And he asked her, after every message, erase it. She also sent some photos to him, And also he asked her to erase it, but then he didn't realize that I think a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, maybe earlier, you can also watch WhatsApp in your computers, WhatsApp web.
You can do it like yeah.
So you have to erase it twice. If you erase it only on your phone, it stays in your computer. So her husband, the husband of the stewardess, peeped into her computer, collected all the messages, and then went to the media and he said, this guy is not qualified to be the head of the Mossad because he's cheating on his wife, he's not careful, and so on. So there are scandals, but also there are operational scandals, not just...
we don't want to talk about operational scandals. This is much more...
There are operational scandals as well.
Okay, so it takes us to another question, you know.
Yeah.
Everything in this world happens for two main reasons. The first one is money, the second one is sex. What about Mossad and sex? A little bit more.
Well, it's a sensitive question, especially in our politically correctness world. So I'll try to be very careful.
Don't be careful, Yossi. You know, let it go.
No, it's another myth. It's another myth, yes. The Mossad, as a professional agency, is trying to recruit people, agents of the other side, of the enemy, to penetrate the enemy, not via blackmailing him.
Okay.
Because if you have an agent who is blackmailed, you can use him, but the first moment he would not like you, or the first moment he would have an opportunity to leave you, he would leave you because he was threatened, he was pressured, he was exposed. So they don't like, professional intelligence organizations don't like to use sex as a weapon. They do use them occasionally, but it's very rare. It prefer not to use it, not to blackmail. They prefer to massage your ego. When you recruit an agent, you massage his ego.
How would you recruit me, for instance? What would you say to me? So you're clever, you're nice looking.
Let's bring you to Israel. Okay. We'll show you around. How can I help you? What do you need?
Money.
No.
Money, okay.
Look, the Mossad and other intelligence organizations, they use vulnerabilities of people for weaknesses. So, for example, in many cases, a platform for recruitment is through medical processes. For example, someone needs a surgery, okay, for his daughter or his wife, and let's say he's from Iran or from another Arab country, and they want to come to the best doctors in the West, France, Britain, United States. So they would use this to recruit the husband. They would say, you need help, you need the best doctors for your daughter, we will help you. So it's not always money. Of course, eventually someone has to pay for the surgery or for the medical treatment.
Okay.
But sex is, and there is one rule in the Mossad, and I'm serious, Mossad personnel is not used as women, female, and there are almost 40% of the workforce in the Mossad are female. Okay. They are not used as for honey traps. No way.
No honey traps.
No honey traps.
Not like Russian agencies.
No, not like the Russians.
Oh.
If they do it, I don't know. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. It didn't. I'll tell you
I don't know. I'm just asking.
I'll tell you one more example. Female operatives of the Mossad can be used in order to establish contact. Okay? Let's say you have a target, and let's say that the head of the Syrian nuclear program is coming to Vienna. And he has been coming to Vienna very often because in Vienna you have the headquarters of the International Atomic Energy agency, IAEA. So, and he's in a hotel lobby. And he's surrounded by his bodyguard, security, and all that. But still, you know, after meetings, after this, he would go to the bar, to the coffee house in the hotel lobby. There might be Mossad female agents who would be sitting there and trying to establish eye contact with him. Hoping, because you ask how you recruit people from in the audience. Yes. The most important first step is to try to get a contact with him from first sight. So that's how it works.
Okay, thank you. Can you, I mean, you managed to have access to many secrets in your books and articles, and usually it's extremely interesting what you write about and the facts that you have. But I have this question, and don't get offended.
No, I'm not.
Okay, is it possible to write with such a level of knowledge and not being part of organization?
Yes, it is possible.
How?
Yes, because the organization itself is trying to control the flow of information. The Mossad doesn't have a press office.
Yeah, it would be in a kind of
but there are ways to contact them if you are a journalist.
How you do that? You send a pigeon with a note?
Yeah, you send a pigeon, yeah. On a horseback.
You know people.
Because it is supervised by the Prime Minister office, so you go to the Prime Minister office. Okay. You have sometimes the Mossad heads are coming to the parliament, and they are talking to members of parliament. Then you have those who used to work for the Mossad, former agents. Okay. And sometimes they feel frustrated, because all their life, 20 years in service, 25 years in Navy, they have to keep secret and not to tell anyone, sometimes not even their families. And once they are out, they feel like their life has been wasted. Oh, we lived 25 years and we kept we knew so much, so many secrets, but we couldn't tell them. So now when they go out of service, they start to blab, they start to talk, they start to mingle with journalists or other people, or they find other jobs in other companies, after retirement.
Yeah, the second career.
You create a circle of sources, and occasionally the Mossad itself would volunteer to provide information, but it's always information which you have to double check it, because they have interests, they have an agenda. They would not try to lie to you, but not always tell you the truth. Mm-hmm.
I'm asking this because I wanted to start this conversation with a question that might sound a little bit rude and would go like this: who the are you, Yossi?
Well, I know that maybe you would not believe me, but I never served in any intelligence organization. All my life, nearly 50 years, I've been a journalist. I served as any other Israeli in the Israeli Defense Forces for 3 years. It's a mandatory service for men, 2 years for women. I served as a reservist for 15 years after that. But that all my intelligence background, because I was in a special forces unit in the army, and I developed that body of information just from talking to people, sometimes reading documents. But when I go abroad and I talk about the Mossad, and people ask me the question you just asked me, Igor.
Yes.
And I said, I've never been a Mossad agent. I've never worked on behalf of the Mossad. People say, oh, give me a break. We know the truth. So the truth is I've never worked, but take it or leave it.
Okay, we believe you, Yossi. We really believe you. But Do you self-censor your stories?
Do I?
Self-censor your stories?
Very rarely, only if I feel that by naming someone I would endanger his life, so I'll self-censor. But also in Israel, we have and I'm not happy about it, we have a censorship system.
But it's related to the military.
Journalists with certain topics, security matters, intelligence matters, have to submit their stories
before publication.
It's a quick process because the censorship office is very professional and they know that time is very important because you will miss the deadline. But they try to minimize it. But I have challenged I quarrel with the censorship almost daily over the phone, over stories or sentences or pieces of information which
do they listen to you?
Which they try to censor.
Are you successful in that endeavor?
Yes, I am successful, not as I wanted to be. Now there are ways to to circumvent it, but I don't want to break the law.
What happens if you break the law in that sense?
There are some Israeli journalists, for example, who send their stories or the information to foreign publications.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
You give the information to the New York Times or the London Guardian, and the Israeli censorship, the Israeli government doesn't have jurisdiction over the New York Times or the Guardian or Le Monde. But I don't want to do it because I want to play it fair. So I fight with them, I debate with them, I struggle with them, and if necessary, I even go to the courts when they issue gag orders to prevent a story, and including to the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, and this is my personal opinion, that in recent years, the Israeli judiciary has become more of a rubber stamp for the intelligence community. So if you challenge them, there is a very slim chance that you will win the case when it's a security matter. Very rare, unfortunately. But we still keep fighting, and the Israeli journalists are very good, very combative, and they reveal information, and we are not at the government pay. Although things have changed recently, because there is such a great deal of instability, political instability in Israel. We are facing now our 5th elections in November 1st in the last 3.5 years.
So, we are used to the elections. So
but we haven't been used, and instability radiates. It's weakening society. And Israeli enemies are already talking that Israel has been weakened because of these ongoing elections. Because Israeli society is divided politically, religiously, ideologically, right in the middle. And that's why the elections have been indecisive. We have a parliament of 120 members. It's almost 60-60. And you cannot form a government at all, or you form
a stable government.
Unstable government.
Yeah, okay. So, a short thing, we are 2 minutes till the end. Snowden, Assange, heroes or villains?
Assange, personally, I don't like him. I approached him, I asked him for an interview.
And he said no, and that's the reason?
No, he said he agreed if I send him the interview before publication, and I said I don't do it even to the US president, and therefore I managed to obtain all the documents independently, and I published them in Israel, and then he called me and said, you are a thief, you stole the documents from me. But Assad was a thief. He stole the documents from the US government.
Okay.
So he did a good service for democracy by revealing a lot of things, but I think he went overboard.
Okay, very shortly. Snowden.
The same with Snowden. He did a good service to democracy, democratic values, by revealing failures, wrongdoings of the CIA and the US government, but then he went to Russia, and he found shelter in Russia. and he was serving, and he's still serving in a way, Putin. So, is a good guy or a bad guy? He's in the middle.
Okay, Yossi, we are at the end, and I will privatize these last 50 seconds.
Yes.
I have a question which is maybe a little bit odd, but my good friend Jerko Trogrlić, I think he's somewhere here. Jerko? No, he's not. Anyway, he's a PR person, PR person. So, okay. He told me that he will be here, but he didn't. Okay, so.
You see PR people.
Okay, but I will put this question, he wants to know if Mossad can make prediction when Hajduk will win national championships. Can you do something about it?
Yes, I will ask my friends at the Mossad to use witch doctors and spin doctors and technological devices to make sure that Hajduk Split will win in 5 years' time.
From now?
From now. Because every operation, you
time.
have to prepare. But the best guy to ask about it, thank you. But the best guy to ask about is Giovanni Russo.
Okay.
If you know the name. He's a Croat. He's a celebrity in Israel. He played soccer in Israel because Israel is not at the same level as European Croatian level, and he's now on all these reality shows in Israel. He's a nice guy, and he played for Hajduk Split.
Yeah.
Right?
Yossi Melman, please. Well,
thank you very much. Thank you.